then, the Champions League final. Fair to say we got it wrong. Paris Saint-Germain 5. International. No, I'm going to call them Inter Milan and disrespect them.
Can I just say, fine if we got it wrong.
Yeah.
Inter got it very wrong.
They got
the main ones who got it wrong.
I mean,
they got it way more wrong.
The name is ultimately international.
Yeah.
That wasn't a performance befitting the planet, was it?
I'd like to have seen them get back into the game at some point.
Well, in the same way that Inter haven't been behind that much this season, and they clearly aren't very used to dealing with it.
Yes.
The Football Ramble, we're always right.
Yes,
so
that's true.
To be wrong means that we can't get back into the game easily.
That cannot be our tagline.
We're always
There's quite
right.
a lot of evidence. There's quite a lot of evidence over the years that cannot be our tagline.
They're all in replies to our tweets and socials. Delete them.
This was the biggest winning margin in any Champions League or European
5-0
final. 5-0. I mean, perhaps some older listeners will remember, as I do, AC Milan beating Barcelona 4-0. And I remember
Capello's
Milan, who were shy of scoring goals in the league often, but they saved it all for that final. And I can remember at the end of that, or towards the end of that game, when Marcel Desailly gallops through and slots home the fourth, and you were, even as a young lad,
time, wasn't he?
He was. Even as a young lad, I was thinking, oh, that was like a proper
seismic.
Sort of, like stop hitting yourself kind of moment. This was. I would even say it was a different level to that.
It also informed the Jamie Carragher comments at half-time in Istanbul. He said he's a big student of European football. He loves it. And he said that, and obviously he came out of international retirement because he wanted to play under Capello.
Yes, yeah.
Which then became quite disappointing, apparently.
But,
but he said he was saying at half-time, if you give me 3-0 now, I'll take it because I don't want to break that record. I don't want to be a part of that because it means too much to me, kind of thing. So it's very much has been broken now. Yes. Just a mere 31 years later.
Do you think that's why the referee, when they got the fifth, the referee thought, that's fine, no injury time.
I rated that.
Yeah.
I rated that.
That's a very Italian thing, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because after the third goal in particular, there's a lot of shots of the Inter fans, obviously, and they look absolutely bereft. It's very clear it's only going one way. It's almost certainly going to get worse, but they're all going to stick around because you have to.
You've got to clap your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And what must that feel like?
Oh, mate, honestly.
The only thing I can compare
I think it feels bad.
It must be like watching someone beat up your dad. Do you know what I mean? It's such a painfully emotional thing.
Yeah, someone pathetic beating up your dad. Do you know what I mean? But, God.
Or you getting beaten up yourself, but in front of a giant mirror.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, that would be awful.
Falling over a stile in a country kind of setting.
Yeah.
Oh, you were my protector, and now you've just fallen over a stile.
Yeah.
Got your foot in a puddle.
I think if someone had said to me, right, you can become an Inter player right now, and you've got your career in football. I go, no, I'm all right as I am.
Yeah,
honestly, it was that bad.
I mean, Cherby was 37 before the game, but I read this morning that he's actually 52 now.
Yeah, that's a shame.
They all age.
It's taking its toll.
It was horrendous. I mean, Man City beat Watford 6-0 in the FA Cup final in 2019. Other than that, I can't think of any final that's been as one-sided.
You got the Brazil-Germany semi.
Yeah, that's the sort of conversation you're having,
Jim's point still stands.
Yeah.
But finals are different, though, aren't they?
But I'm just adding a little bit of context.
Yeah, although weirdly, Cruz Azul beat Vancouver Whitecaps 5-0 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup yesterday. So that is a bit of a lightning strike.
Not as big.
Strike. 2 5-0s in finals is rare, though, right?
I think that's
but unless you can name a player, it's not as big. Can't name a single player, it doesn't matter.
Peter
Ramirez.
Peter Beardsley.
They won 5-0. They still got Peter Beardsley.
I thought Sanchez, Ramirez, Gutierrez. Yeah, I thought they were all great.
Yeah,
personally. But Wachowski for the he was poor. He was poor on the day.
He was not as bad as DeMarco though. What a day he had.
I mean, 12 minutes in the first goal from Hakimi, and DeMarco.
Did you say Rodriguez?
They've
got a Rodriguez.
I think I've missed that one.
All the names you miss out. You missed out that. That's crazy, yeah.
Oh, well.
Fernandez, you say Fernandez?
I missed that one out
They've
as well.
got Fernandez as well.
Finally, I've been exposed.
It's almost like you didn't watch the game. You fraud.
And then Gutierrez.
I did say
You did
Gutierrez.
say
There you go, you're in.
Yeah.
Came off the bench, apparently.
Back in,
Well
everybody, back
There
in.
you
But yeah, not always nice to have a DeMarco in there.
Absolutely not, especially when he's playing everybody onside.
I mean, and it was. I mean, that was bad. And then the second goal, of course, where he turns his back.
And that's got to be a nerves thing, right?
But I think a lot's made of that, right? Let me give you.
He's unlucky.
Let me give you a hot take that you might hate.
Here we go.
Right?
Here we go.
The first goal was bad, but PSG. The problem is PSG have started like a house on fire.
As we knew they would.
They've gone so quick, and Inter set up
runaway
all wrong.
freight train on fire.
And we can come up that. I didn't say freight train because when you say start like a freight trains actually start quite slowly.
Yeah.
When they're full speed, they're running away.
Yeah, I mean,
it did say run away.
It was about 10 minutes in, though, isn't it? So it's probably
true. So it's up to speed by then.
And it's on fire.
The second goal.
Like much of France.
For me, yeah.
An astonishing evening after that.
Let me just make this point about that second goal, because it's a sort of thing that commentators who are made up, particularly co-commentators of ex-pros who are older, they're our age and older and stuff, and back in the day, turning your back on the ball was the worst thing you could do, right? That's just one of those things, right? But I actually think what's made players do that kind of thing that you see a lot more now is the handball rule.
Yeah, but he had his hands. If anything, he turned around and he showed his hands.
But I don't. But the thing is, let me make it different like that. So you're saying that he turns his back. His back is still the same size. He turns his face. His head's still the same size.
But he's already done the thing with his hands. He's already tucked them in, so he didn't need to do it.
But I think the point being that back in the day, they used to say make yourself as big as possible. If you make yourself as big as possible now, you're probably going to get a handball against you.
Indeed, but
we've just been seeing in the Champions League final not that long ago.
It has.
But I think when DeMarco looks back at that, he'll think, yeah, I've done better. But look, PSG. You're
saying that's why they lost.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly my point.
His teammates really, really did him a favour by being absolutely shocking without him as well, because it would have been the story.
But the one thing it was. I mean, the PSG performance was mesmerising.
Yeah,
this is one of the great all-time performances. To do that in any game in a knockout phase, but in the final itself, much has been made of low-scoring finals and teams only scoring the odd goal here and there and all that kind of thing. To knock 5 and keep a clean sheet and to never at no point really look like conceding at all. But PSG, what they've done superbly well in this competition is as the knockout rounds progressed, you saw them against Villa, you did against Arsenal, particularly in the first leg in London. They go on those raids, don't they? Right, for 20 minutes, we are not going to give them a moment. We're going to press them. We're going to play the game almost inside our final third, their starting third, if you like. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to swarm them, and at some point we'll score, and we'll get our reward, as they did in North London, and of course they did here. They got 2 goals, but they just kind of kept, and obviously not quite that, because you can't do that for the whole game, and they did ease off a bit and so on. But really, the intensity and the relentlessness, whether it was in that final third or the way they played, the whole game. They were magnificent.
What I love about watching them is that there are so many routes to goal for that team. You never know where it's coming from. They just spin you all over the place.
It's like what Sam Haman said. We play a kind of orgy football. Yeah, the opposition know they're going to get it, but they don't know from who or from where.
It is genuinely
like that. It is very much like that.
It's a very crude analysis.
I mean, the second goal is a great kind of microcosm of the game. Really, Nicola Barella's trying to see the ball out to win a corner. Pacho keeps it in. They zip it up the pitch, and it's 2-0.
It was an Inspector Gadget leg. It was enjoyable to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I obviously, a team have won 5-0 in the Champions League final. You can't take anything away from them. They were brilliant, great all over the pitch.
We'll talk about the ownership in a bit.
No. I'm not going to say that. They were great, right? And a load of Inter players just didn't perform. But aforementioned Barella, Çalhanoğlu, Martinez was nowhere. Dumfries didn't really do anything. DeMarco had a poor game, etc., etc. But I do also think, and both these things can be true, I'm not trying to be contrary for the sake of it. I agree with your points. I'm just adding something, a slightly different point of view, is that Inter made it really, really easy for them.
They crap themselves.
And respectfully, if you know that that's what PSG do, as you've just articulately described it there, Inter should know that.
Yes.
And the only explanation you can think is they just froze on the big occasion, because there's no way. What Inter kept doing, which I thought was absolutely remarkable, was they kept trying to play out.
Yeah, mate.
They kept trying to play out, and they were misplacing really simple passes. What they needed to do, and I said, to be fair, I'm not asked the time on this. I said it to you at the time on the WhatsApp group. What they showed a little glimpse of, they did it slightly successfully at the start of the second half. Did it in patches, because there was about 40 minutes between the second and third goals. They had patches. They should have been, and this sounds like I'm going to do a massive Neil Warnock impression.
No, but you're right.
But they've got a Thuram up front with Lautaro Martinez. They should have essentially just started hitting it long, and Thuram should have just started occupying the centre-backs. He was winning every header. They should have hit the channels. They should have turned him around, because at the very least, I'm not saying they would have beaten them. I'm not saying you can get past a team this good like that, but you could have given yourself a breather. And they kept doing like a really shit impression of what PSG were doing and coming off second best every time.
But it was the
and
poor
that ruined the final as a spectacle from the point of view of a competition.
I agree with you totally. Yeah.
They were unable to deal with the fact that PSG weren't just exploiting spaces in the opposition's side. They were also exploiting the sort of space where a player would go and commit himself, and then another player would go into that space to kind of really like affect the press way more effectively. And once they went down in the 12th minute, you just got the feeling that because of the age disparity, and we talk about experience and stuff like that, but plenty of those young players are experienced enough. They just couldn't get back, and they just didn't have the legs to do it in.
No, I think they froze. I think you're right. I think they froze, and they just thought, "Oh crap, we're under attack." And as you say, for a side who have been to a final before in recent memory, and a lot of those players were still there, and tactically, Inzaghi's very good. I mean, they got to the final, for crying out loud, so they're a good side. They gave us an amazing tie against Barcelona. But to get there and not have a bit of flexibility, as you say, Luke, to not sort of think, right, okay, we're under the cosh here. Right, well, come on, we're battle-hardy bastards. Let's do something. And it, as you said, when they were trying to play out of the back, the sloppy passes.
It's bad.
I know it's easy to sit on your sofa at home and say all this.
It was nervous. And I think Pete's point about the age, and a lot of people have said the similar thing, I think nothing ages you more than being 2 or 3-0 down in a big game. If it was 1-1, Pete, with half an hour to go, and they were fighting for it,
I
don't reckon they'd have felt tired. No. I don't reckon they would have felt old.
I agree.
And they could start to become a bit more canny and everything. Yeah.
Young boys were terrible in the Champions League this year.
And they are literally young boys.
Literally young boys.
Yeah, I mean, it was, as we touched on, such a dominant display. And it's you have to look at Inter now and think, obviously, they've blown a treble, really, very late on.
59 games this season with no trophies.
So officially, Spurs have had a better season than that. They have.
They're delighted to get a mention in the Champions League final chat for the first time in 6 years.
Get them in the Club World Cup.
But that becomes a crisis, right? I mean, you've got to the Champions League final, and it essentially has led to a crisis of identity. It has to.
Jim, so we talk about how tired they are, and this crisis of identity, and AC Milan fans holding a funeral for Inter, And
see, this is all the stuff that comes with it, with a hammering like that.
Totally,
it wasn't worse than not getting to the final.
They can have a lovely rest now, though, can't they?
Club World Cup, baby.
Till next week. and they go to the Club World Cup.
Doing a club bleeding World Cup.
If they lose in the final, could you imagine?
They're going to be like Man United in Malaysia.
No, but you know what, though? Even if they win it, I think they'll lift it and go, piss off.
They're not going to win it, are they?
No, they're not going to win it.
They've had their hearts broken.
Yes. And they're an old squad.
Come on, double down.
Okay,
predict a win.
I think they're going to win it.
Yeah. I mean, I fancy them.
Where's Dave Cartledge? Where's Dave? He was predicting Inter to win it from the start.
To be fair, but he's been talking a lot about Desire Doué, if you will. And I think we should. I think we've come this far without mentioning him. Much has been made about PSG getting rid of all the star names and blah, blah, blah. Some people have forgotten they've spent an awful lot of money on this side, but of course they have, because they're in a final
on some quite famous players.
That as well, Jim. But you invest in youth nowadays. That's what elite clubs do, don't they? Because
they were already doing it, selling those players on as well, which is quite mad.
But younger players can be moulded and shaped a bit more, like a quality coach like Luis Enrique, who's been phenomenal since his whole career, from player to manager. My goodness, what a man! But Doué comes in for huge money. There's a reason for that, and he has not looked phased. And he is now the talk of the town. He's the talk of European or world football, you would say. 2 goals in the final, magnificent, and he's been brilliant throughout the tournament. And as actually Dave Cartledge has been saying, he manages to be that sort of street footballer that we all love, with flair and a real showman, but do it within a system kind of seamlessly.
Yeah.
Because you think about Luis Enrique's system, what he's got at PSG, it is simply magnificent.
It looks like you just need to be able to follow his instructions and play within that unit, but you can express yourself within it. And the problem I think with PSG in the past has been they want to express themselves on their own terms at all times.
And the tracking.
The
tracking has been a problem.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
If you look at, a lot's been made of the midfield of PSG and how exceptionally well balanced it is, but you guys have already touched on it. The press from all the way through the team is mad. I mean, it's difficult. Inter made it look probably a bit better than it actually is. But it is good.
Vitinha, the ex-Wolves man.
Yeah.
What a delight.
Player.
Yeah, I mean, the way he picks the ball up and he slots Doué in, for the second. Dembele with the back heel. I mean, they're a proper. A mate of mine said they're a proper Harlem Globetrotters team.
But it feels like Desiree Doué is on the threshold now of being someone who appears into the average football watching public's consciousness now. Because he's had a good season. He's clearly a really exciting teenager.
Could have signed for Spurs. He visited them.
Did he visit them? Yeah. Just did he go over the stadium on that stadium
on the way to Charles de Gaulle Airport?
But he's still kind of been a player that if you kind of know type guy.
Yeah.
And now he's obviously on the threshold of doing something amazing. The way they've kind of bedded him in as well is good. Obviously came for big money from Rennes. Like it comes with its own pressure. I think he's made his international debut this year as well. So clearly it's all there for him now. I mean, to lift the Champions League and to perform like that in the final, he's on the threshold of something great. So that's amazing. But they just got quality throughout the team, like everywhere. Yeah. One thing that I found interesting, actually, not to derail it, but is that we spent quite a lot of time talking about the goalkeepers on Friday. Yeah. And then there's two reasons why that was pointless. One, because Jan Sommer had an absolute Reggie. And two, because Donnarumma didn't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, at one point he made a save, but you're right.
That was like about 70-odd minutes.
I mean, can I have one? Can I have one, guys?
There you go. There's your save.
I'll tell you who wanted one was Bradley Barcola. Had he put away that chance he made for himself, that would have been the goal of the game. He'll still be thinking about that now.
And you saw him a few minutes after that when he should have squared it to, I forget who it was, and he's tried to score, and it's like, how on earth, in among that final, can a PSG player have a little regret? Because it was, as you say, when he put Sommer down, it would have been.
I loved. I have to say as well on that note, I absolutely loved Seni Mayulu's celebration.
Oh, yeah.
His celebration on his face, he looked around at everyone and went, I've got one here.
Yeah.
I've got one as well.
Yeah. It was
he's also 19. No? I think he's even younger than Doué.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing with Doué, because we now are so aware of him, then you kind of forget that he's a teenager because you're part of the European football furniture.
It's like Yamal, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
Like Yamal's like, you are still now constantly shocked at how young he still is.
Yeah. Whereas Mayulu very much looked, as you say, the teenager when he does that. You know?
I think we need to mention Vitinha. I think he's been the player of the tournament. He's dominated the whole thing. It's great. It's mad. He's got the build of Prince.
Yeah.
How can he do this?
Yeah, absolutely right. If you went in hard on him, he would just go, ooh. Yeah.
But before
you'd never get close to him though.
He'd have jumped out the way first and done a little solo.
He would have done.
He's made a deal with the devil somewhere. He must have done.
What I loved about it was when he came up to get the trophy, he had slave written on his chin.
No. Oh, but
that's one for the teenagers.
Is it?
Yeah. I've done that one. I've had Inspector Gadget as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Come on, all the new music is basically Prince and Michael Jackson mashed together.
It is. Absolutely.
Kavicha.
Sounds the same. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it just sounds like Michael Jackson and Prince.
It does, yeah.
Listen to that the weekend, yeah? Put that on your blog.
Well, do you want to
are you all right there?
He's raging about Gambino not being involved.
He's back on Absolute Radio, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Home of the no repeat guarantee, Marcus.
Yeah. Want to stitch me up? You did.
Why?
When I think.
I've got a point of pick with you. You were flirting with my girlfriend in a dream.
Oh yeah, sorry.
In her dream, not mine.
After the Champions League final.
Pre-Champions League final.
Right, that's terrible preparation.
Once when you were on the radio, Jim and I were travelling back from the 2009 Champions League final from Rome, and you
were flirting with me on the texts.
Well, you gave us a little shout out.
There you go.
As you once did, and you once said to me, "Don't worry, Marcus, we'll get some Nickelback on for you later, fella."
Which
was such a lovely thing. It's a great jig.
I remember being in the car with my now wife when she came to visit me for the first time.
Yeah.
And obviously having a little flex that I knew the DJ.
Oh, yeah.
Texting in. And Pete said live on national radio, shout out to my friend Luke who's taken his new girlfriend on their first date to Halfords. So
good shot.
We've all been on the end of it.
It's good.
I told you I was going to get a new spare tyre for the bike.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about?
I want to talk about Kvaratskhelia. Kavicha Kvaratskhelia became only the second player in history to win 2 league titles in the same season. Of course, mad to think he's only been at PSG since January.
That's mad, isn't it?
It really is.
He's settled in so well.
Duck to water.
What a great player to watch. He's a lovely player to watch.
I was pleased that he scored. Because I wanted Inter to win, okay? The cards on the table. I've said that for a while, but when the goals are just going in, you think, he's a lovely player.
Yeah,
I'm pleased for him. Yeah, get him on the score sheet as well.
What's great about him is that you see him almost as like, I'm not going to kind of comparing him because he's at a certain stage of his career and they are in many ways quite different. But you think of his energy, it's almost like a kind of Zlatan type energy. right?
Yeah.
He'll do something special. He's quite ungainly to look at, but very, very talented and very skillful. But he also works his socks off to the point where his socks actually roll all the way down.
Yeah, that's right.
He's running so hard.
Sort of Jack Grealish
The
stuff.
sort of player where if he was wearing a morph suit, you would still know who it was.
Definitely. He moves, he's got a very identifiable gait, hasn't he?
Very true, very true. Of course, Luis Enrique, the man at the centre of all this, became only the 6th coach to win Champions League with 2 different clubs. And obviously he spoke quite emotionally and poignantly about his daughter, and when that famous photo when he planted the Barcelona flag in the centre circle with her after the 2015 final. And then when the PSG fans unveiled that tifo after the game of him and his daughter, who of course passed away 6 years ago.
Emotional.
Yeah, that was really touching. I thought. I think becoming a father myself, sort of in the last.
It was.
I really was like, that was quite something.
It's quite something that seems comfortable in living that aspect, that kind of catastrophic aspect of his life so publicly, and to the point where he's clearly, fine with, people he barely knows in interviews asking him questions about his daughter who's passed away, which to me as a parent seems quite alien.
He's quite a unique character, Luis Enrique.
But also, I suppose he's also lived his life totally in the public eye, so it's a completely different set of circumstances. But I mean, look.
Well, I think sorry to butt in, but I forget, was it maybe Miguel Delaney on Twitter, or Jonathan Northcroft, but somebody, a prominent journalist said about Luis Enrique, they said that, look, whatever you think about the PSG ownership and so on, and we all do think that, and you can't divorce that from all of it.
From his decision to join the club. Like, you'd say the same about Eddie Howe, you'd say the same about a lot of people who have joined clubs.
I'm not talking about the story of PSG and coming to win this Champions League. That is a part of the story of the ownership. There's no two ways about that, of course. But they said about Luis Enrique, they said, pleased for him, a very intense man, but a good man is what they said. And I think that's come across really in this Champions League campaign.
Ultimately, he's a brilliant football manager. I mean, clearly, he's a brilliant player as well. I used to love watching him play. So versatile. Part of that amazing, Barcelona team started before the one that we all loved.
And played for Real Madrid as well.
They played for a sizable amount of time for Real Madrid, then went straight to Barcelona. But incredible player, incredible manager. Really pleased for him. Regardless of the to say the least, difficulty he's had in his personal life, he's just done a really good job. And it's funny because some people were saying that he's taken a PSG team who everyone just kind of gloried in their failure in Europe, like that classic Neymar gif and all that kind of stuff. And he's actually made them on the pitch quite a likeable team.
There's a slight bad taste in the mouth, though.
Yeah, of course. But you got people like Rio Ferdinand saying this is a win for football and stuff. It's like, well.
Really.
I'm pleased this is your last game doing this because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's asinine.
Also said to the Newcastle fans about Mike Ashley, it should be thank you.
He's very much in the pocket of Mike Ashley. What
we're trying to say is he's very much got his ear to the ground, knows what the normal football fan wants.
Does, yeah.
I also just want to, I know you guys want to move on, but I want to do a very, very quick mention for the commentary team because, again, it was really, really poor, obviously. But the one thing I really wanted to say was the one thing that shows in microcosm just how poor that commentary team have been this season, the combination of Fletcher, McCoist and one other, usually Ferdinand, is that Fletcher has now given McCoist so much time to speak whenever he wants about whatever he wants. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, and you can go back and check. It was astonishing to me.
He wasn't going through his favourite Janet Jackson albums, was he?
Mate, no, that was Pardew on TalkSport, actually. But when PSG are about to lift the trophy for the first time in their history, Ali McCoy started talking about how impressed he was with their fitness levels. And it's like, Ali, right? I know no one's taught you this, and you're not really being produced, and your commentator's a complete fucking arse, but can you shut the fuck up? Because they're about to lift the trophy, and your coverage for the last 9 months has been about this. We don't need to hear about their fitness levels at this point. It was remarkable.
To be honest, though, I'm just happy to hear Ali McCoy speak at any point during the broadcast because it means one of the others is.
The highlight for me was watching a bit of the back end kind of ice show speed videos.
There we go.
He was obviously all over it, but him meeting Clive Tilsley was a lovely moment.
What a clash of cultures.
It's such a weird thing. Like ice show speed, just having to do a tedious 3-hour stream walking through the hospital corridors of the Allianz, and he doesn't really know football, so he doesn't really understand like the importance and the gravitas and the history. And so he's just a lad who's just walking down a corridor, just having a boring old time with boring old men walking around. What do you reckon?
Clive knew who he was.
I don't think he did.
Been briefed?
I don't think he might have been. No,
Clive does his research. I think he would have known.
Well, he was showing our show speed his, those beautifully written sort of team sheets and little bits of information that he writes for every single footballer. Do you know those kind of? He's got
it's amazing.
So you're showing him all of that, and just watching those two meet for the first time.
Incredible. I mean, among our show speed doing all that on the pitch and Ferdinand saying it was a win for football, we did have somebody break through all that crap and say, I think, maybe what some people really, really thought about the whole affair. Because Marco van Basten said about Lincoln Park's pre-match performance, the Lincoln Park performance was garbage, absolute garbage. It's a disgrace that UEFA allows this. There we go.
Papa Roach man, are you?
Yeah, maybe.
The great thing about the Champions League is, and the way modern football is now, is it forces Marco van Basten to have an opinion on Lincoln Park.
Why is he so
Speed
upset
hanging out with
about
Clive
it?
Tildesley.
The Speed was on the pitch, Marcus. Yeah, you kicked off about Salt Bay doing it. What are you going to say about
Speed?
Speed?
He was on the pitch, he was saying hello to Doué and stuff, and all of the footballers knew who he was, and I was actually into it. But I mean, I think Aisha Speed, on more than one occasion over the last couple of seasons, has been screaming and shouting, while he's streaming inside the crowd. And there should be just a little exclusion zone for streamers. Well, a little room that they can go to and do their streaming and stuff. But don't submit everyone else.
I would say to UEFA, with regard to letting people like I Show Speed on the pitch and around the stadium and all this sort of stuff,
show some fucking respect
to the competition.
Show some respect to my relationship, please.
All right. Coming up after this, we're left dumbfounded by Pete's dreams and the Club World Cup.
What's that? Flare. That's a flare. Yes. Wow. Clever goal. Yes. Wow. Clever goal.
Now, why do you say clever goal? Tell me.
It's a clever goal because the guy that passed the ball across, he could have easily shot.
Well, back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was David Beckham explaining to Tom Cruise while watching the game on CBS why it was a clever goal.
What timeline are we living in here?
It really makes you sort of think if someone goes, why is that good? And you go, it just is though, isn't it?
Beckham could have crumbled there, couldn't he? That's Tom Cruise. That's Tom Cruise asking you that. What are you going to do? Fucking hell. This is Beckham and Friends, right? On CBS, I think.
Cruise is probably thinking, I mean, I'm jumping out of planes for a laugh.
Yeah.
Is that good? I can do that.
I'm surprised David Beckham didn't just panic and go, my son's called Cruise.
I would have liked Robert Muldoon to pop up and go, clever goal.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to friend of the Ramble, Tom, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by joining our Patreon for just $5 a month. You'll also get every episode of the Ramble on the continent and up front, ad-free, and access to the Football Ramble Discord, where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners. Head to patreon.com/Football Ramble to get involved. Right then, we've had the warm-up act.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the Club World Cup.
So when Dembele did that little back heel for that PSG goal, do you reckon he was just thinking, I'll do this just to wet people's whistle for the Club World Cup?
I think so.
I'll just leave this one here.
Yeah.
No, I tell you what, they've got to be among the favourites, haven't they? PSG for the Club World Cup.
Yeah. We're really glossing over the possibility that none of these European teams can be bothered.
It would be amazing if they fielded a team where we'd never heard of any of them. They've got a new manager. It's like a completely different thing.
But because I think we've. Do you remember when the Club World Cup used to be a lot smaller, and a lot more kind of
what do you mean
boutique?
Well, there was a one-off game back in the day, which was like an intercontinental.
No, when United went there in 2000.
Yeah, so you had the odd. Yeah,
that was I think there was like 4 or 8 teams at one point.
You're right. Yeah,
there was some qualification.
So you had one from each continent.
And the South
Antarctica never represented.
South America. That's because of the Trump tariffs. But South American teams just take it really seriously, and I think we might be glossing over the fact that somebody
take the piss out of them.
No, I'm not.
Right,
it's been important to them. I'm literally doing the opposite to that. I'm saying what we might see is we might see people forgetting, because we're so Eurocentric with our football,
bastards,
that the South American teams might actually do something.
Yeah,
I know South American football, like club football's on its knees, but I'm just wondering whether their passion for it might make up for it.
I think passion for the game is passion for the game.
It is.
To quote the great man. Well, what I would say is that a North American side has finally completed the roster.
Yeah.
Okay. The roster. This is what I just said.
I'm pleased you said like that.
Yeah. Okay, just to clarify.
For Andy Brassel saying rant.
Yeah, Andy Brassel.
Andy Brassel saying rant.
Los Angeles FC have claimed the last Club World Cup group stage place after an extra time win over Club America on Saturday night. They'll be in Group D with Chelsea, Flamingo and Tunisian side Espérance de Tunis.
Yeah, I like that you said flamingo then.
Yeah.
Flamengo, I should. Yeah, Flamingo. If I was going to sound a bit weird.
Are you trying to make out that you did it in the local pronunciation rather than the fact that you just saw a flamingo at the zoo this weekend?
Yeah. I conflated the two. Clearly.
You're the flamingo of the Ramble.
King Flamingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Flakingo.
Oh, I like liking your work there. Well, yeah, the spot only opened up because Mexican side Leon, who won the 2023 CONCACAF Champions League, were kicked out of the tournament because they have the same owners as Pachuca, who won the CONCACAF Champions League a year later.
Extremely harsh.
Why would
Extremely harsh.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Jim, I'm mildly sure there's a good reason.
Okay. Can I just say, the way they've gone about that is that they didn't know the two teams were owned by the same person until they announced them being in it, which tells its own story, probably.
It tells its own story.
I mean, are they just going to keep adding teams to this, though?
They're making it up.
No, I think League 11.
Well, I think
Hurricanes.
Well, what is quite
the Mighty Ducks. Wrexham.
Cristiano Ronaldo. Wrexham, I'm surprised.
Wrexham with Ronaldo.
Wrexham with Ronaldo is the one.
Next step,
that is the one, isn't it? Well, so there's a bit of confusion with the qualifying for this tournament. So there's some obvious things.
There's a bit of confusion because it's nonsense. That's why you didn't put that in there.
That's true.
There are points that make sense.
Yeah.
As in, like, if you've won your continental, Champions League equivalent, you qualify. The rest is just unfathomable.
Yeah, exactly. You guys, exactly the point. Because I think the way Marcus said that is like he's slightly implying that it might be our fault that we're confused.
Yeah, this is
it. Fucking isn't.
This is not like a UEFA Nations League. Hang on, how do you get into a playoff for the Euros? That is confusing, but there is a little bit of method there in among the confusing nature.
What
of it.
I find interesting is that before you go on to this, is that I might be reading too much into this,
right.
But what I have noticed, and presumably there's some kind of legal reason for this,
right.
Rather than talking about qualification in quotes for the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, they've talked about slot allocation.
Yes.
Because I wonder if there might be the odd kind of competition law challenge that they've decided to. They've probably put it through the legal team beforehand and gone, how can we kind of get away with doing whatever we want?
In Trump's America?
Well, you've got to call it slot allocation.
Yes.
You can't do qualification.
Yes.
Because some of this, and you're about to come onto it, is just absolutely ridiculous. Well, it is extraordinary.
So, and I know you loathe the game, but I feel it might be ever so slightly relevant. So in tennis, right, you've got the French Open, the Australian Open, the US Open. They're the big three with Wimbledon. They're open, hence the name. Anyone, feasibly. Whereas Wimbledon is invite only. Now, of course, everyone's going to get an invite, but it does mean that they have a tiny little teensy bit which they don't presumably abuse. That's what we've got here. This is not. It's
the Gianni Infantino Invitational.
It's basically,
if they could get away with taking one of the 4 African spots, they would.
Yes.
There's only 4 African teams in there for some fucking reason.
Just have a go at Sepp, because Sepp was pretty passionate about taking the World Cup to Africa, which of course he did.
Yeah.
And now Mamelodi Sundowns are playing in Club World Cup.
Do you feel though Sepp is like the George W. Bush in this? Remember you thought, I can't get worse than him.
This is as silly as it could possibly ever be. Yeah.
Someone's thrown a shoe at him, fair play.
Yeah.
Now he seems like a very avuncular kind of guy you wouldn't mind having a story or two from.
You'd bite both the ads off of somebody offering to give us him
like George W. Bush, who famously, when Trump did his first inauguration speech at the Capitol building, was caught on a hot mic saying that was some majorly weird shit.
I'd love to know what Sepp thinks of this guy. I don't know. He would think it was a disgrace.
And he also said at an invitational dinner for journalists on the West Coast, George W. Bush was invited because they heard he was in town, right? And he turned up and was asked to do a speech, quite impromptu speech, George W. Bush. And obviously a lot of the press corps are very liberal and all the rest of it. And apparently his opening remarks is he looked around at them and went, "Oh, you like me now, do you fuckers?"
It's a massive time. Yeah. An Iraqi journalist threw shoes at him again.
I can confirm it's a Southend.
So then, let's try and unpick the nonsense.
Do the Inter Miami bit. That's the best bit.
Yes.
The Inter Miami bit's the best bit.
I actually disagree. I think.
Well, Jim, why don't you do your best bit?
My favourite bit is that Juventus are in there. Yeah. They last won the Champions League in 1996. So I saw that and I'm looking at that thinking, how have they got in there?
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of research of that. Juventus earned their place at the FIFA Club World Cup via the UEFA ranking pathway. Their consistent participation in the UEFA Champions League in the 4-year qualifying period, 2020 to 2024, in which they reached the last 16 twice, ensured they qualified for the tournament that we played in the USA. I think what's happened here is FIFA are historically an awful organisation full of maniacs prone to corruption, and game just recognises game.
I think that's what it is. So apparently you can't have more than 2 teams per country, which is why Barcelona are not in it. So Real Madrid, because they won in that qualifying period between 2020 and 2024, they won the Champions League. And then according to the UEFA coefficient stuff, that Atletico Madrid were ranked higher. So they got in, much to Barcelona's glee, I'm sure, for missing out. So that's why you've got 2 sides. Chelsea and Man City, of course, won in that time. I find it intriguing that Red Bull Salzburg are in there. They qualified as UEFA's 8th best team across the qualifying period. Bearing in mind you can only have 2 teams.
It's nice to have a Red Bull in there, isn't it?
I think that is
lovely to have a Red Bull.
You might have touched on something there, Jim. But going to North America, Inter Miami's qualification also proved confusing. I think it's fair to say.
It's a very generous way.
This one is so good.
So they did not win a CONCACAF Champions League title. Instead, FIFA designated one of the 32 slots to to a team from the host nation, and Miami secured it by having the best record in the 2024 MLS regular season. This was decided after Inter Miami finished the 2024 regular season with the best record, but before the playoffs. Yeah. The playoffs being the crucial bit. And they were knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So they very much were waiting, and they got in there quickly. And yes, you've got Lionel Messi. We will need him for this tournament to get bums on seats and broadcasters in the mix.
Well done for finding something, but it's not even worth making that up. It's just not worth it.
Yeah,
they might. It's given that there are teams in MLS whose fans and get absolutely raging to the point where there's talk of legal action and stuff when Miami come to town and Messi's not playing.
Oh yeah,
because of ticket sale prices.
The prices they put up is ridiculous.
But this is literally they're making stuff. There's absolutely no way on earth Inter Miami are in the FIFA Club World Cup if they're not owned by David Beckham and Lionel Messi doesn't play for them. Yeah. It's just astonishing.
But they wouldn't have been in if Fizzer was managing them though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think Fizzer's the real victim here.
We probably are going to
just get a free ticket or 2?
Thinking about it, we're going to get Tom Cruise at the tournament, probably.
I would say so. So which side then is Cristiano Ronaldo going to play for?
Whitecaps.
I think he's going to Vancouver. Maybe.
Tom Cruise will stop at nothing to convert David Beckham to Scientology. Yeah. So that's basically part of the project. I think he might be
that would be a big hat, wouldn't it?
That'd be a lovely hat.
Lovely hat.
Terrible. It'd be a terrible hat, actually.
Oh, dear.
Cristiano Ronaldo will obviously be there.
It won't be for a European side. It won't be for Inter Miami.
It might be another Saudi side.
He's not going to be. No, because why would Al Hilal want him when they've got Alexander Mitrovic?
Well, he's been linked with. The big link has been with Botafogo, hasn't it? That's been the big link.
Is that the one?
I don't know if it's going to transpire, but I mean, I can't reasonably think that they're going to do this to such a fanfare, and Cristiano Ronaldo's going to miss out somehow.
Yeah,
I mean, how are we sort of feeling about it as a spectacle? Because obviously it's ridiculous, but it's so ridiculous.
I'm looking at this. It's proper razzle-dazzle, isn't it? Stupid end of the season. Everyone's injured and tired.
They're going to win us over, aren't they? They're going to win us over.
Of course they are.
We need content.
Yeah, we do.
I'm delighted. I can't believe my luck that this is happening.
Without this, we're basically down to Marcus's impressions.
Pete's dreams.
Pete's dream. Which actually is his partner's dream.
Right.
Okay.
Did you want to elaborate on that, by the way?
You don't want to see my dreams.
I really do.
Pete told me once that whenever he occasionally gets a lucid dream, all he does... You did say this, Pete.
I did say this.
All he does
Did he say it on mic?
Yeah. I think he did. All he does is just try and have sex with the nearest thing that's around.
Thing.
Not wrong with that.
Not in your dream.
Specifically,
not
be a more personal thing to reveal.
Yeah.
It's subconscious.
I've done worse on Luke and Pete's show.
Yeah. But do you want to elaborate further on Sarah's dream or not? No.
Apparently, you were flirting with Sarah in her dream,
right?
And she did say you don't seem the sort of person who would do that sort of thing.
There we are. You see.
Okay.
And you're not, are you?
No,
exactly.
Absolutely
not.
He does it in real life.
But in the dream world, that's where I really come alive. Now, what do you think of this? Chelsea have reportedly asked Liam Delap to forego the European under-21s this summer for England and play for Chelsea in the Club World Cup. Delap was expected to start England's opening game on the 12th of June, but the Club World Cup starts 2 days later.
How do you feel about that, Marcus? You must be very upset.
The club versus country debate.
It's disrespectful to the nation.
It is.
England are the holders of that.
Yeah.
I would like to see him play for the under-21s because I think he'll have a much better time. There'll be far less travel. It will be... I think he should play for the under-21s, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think he will, though.
Well, something we do know is that Trent Alexander-Arnold is, A, less of a rat because they've got some money for him,
right.
And B, he's going to be playing for Real Madrid in the Club World Cup.
Yeah, so it's 10 million quid. they're going to get for that.
I think that's bearing in mind. They thought that's not
Is he
too
downgraded
bad.
from a snake to a slow worm? Perhaps
Could be.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit of money back, aren't they?
Is that a downgrade?
I don't
No,
know,
but it was a
really.
rat, wasn't it? Though.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's lots of animals.
Rats are lovely animals, though.
I'm interested to see what your ranking system is for rodents, Jim.
Yeah.
He's gone
See,
for a
this
rat.
is what the summer would be.
Yeah, indeed. Well, obviously, Rat King top.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if he's less of a rat now, what is he? A mouse?
Yeah, probably.
Must be.
It's little mouse.
I'm imagining a
little
YouTube
dormouse.
video, a picture and caption with Jim going like, and then loads of rats coming out of the sewer pipe.
Could be.
Mega rat.
There could be trouble in paradise anyway, though, because I saw Jude Bellingham's Instagram post this morning of him on a holiday with his brother and 2 of his pals. Trent wasn't in the photo.
Really?
So,
Well, they were also
in paradise.
well. There was also pictures of Bellingham and some of the England boys down on the tracks at some Formula One.
That was Monaco, wasn't it?
Was that Monaco?
I don't know if it was Monaco. Could have been. I think it probably was.
It was one of them.
Yeah, Monaco's the one.
Silverstone.
I don't think it was Silverstone.
Nigel Mansell was behind the wheel as Brands Hatch.
It was Nigel Mansell. Nigel Mansell at Thruxton. It was Nigel Mansell at Thruxton.
It was banger racing.
The Festival of Speed.
They were at Wimbledon.
Actual speed.
They were at Wimbledon Dogs Track for the banger racing. That's what they were.
Yeah.
They looked great though.
Followed by monster truck.
I saw the banger racing at Wimbledon Dogs one year. Oh dear. Anyway,
You know what that is
Speedway.
now, don't you? Plough Lane, that is now.
yeah.
It's a new Wimbledon stadium.
And it's a disgrace. I chained myself
back
to
the
that.
bangers.
I was driving around me banger. Get out of here.
Bring back the
But Andy
bangers.
Brass
An
will-
insult to Kingstonian.
What were we talking about? Trent.
Trent, yeah. So they got 10 million quid for him. So that's a little sweetener, is it not?
Yeah.
Little sweetener.
Yeah.
It goes-
What's that, 3 weeks?
I don't know.
3 week early?
It goes towards Florian Wirtz's, I don't know, his pocket money.
Yeah.
Because they've submitted a reportedly £109 million. But it's always difficult to get a precise number with transfer figures these days.
Well, also, there was
It's a lot of money.
a German journalist was at great pains, obviously thought it was his time to shine, and posted a video online when this happened saying, everyone in England, please do remember, his name is Florian Wirtz.
Yeah.
Not
Wirtz.
Right.
It's
Or Wirtz.
Florian Wirtz. No one will
Wirtz.
care. No, everyone will ignore that.
What did he say? I can't even remember what he said.
He said Florian Wirtz.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say?
Wirtz.
That's fine. I think it's fine. We all know. who
We'll
you're
leave
talking
that to Andy.
about. Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned about shininess there. Well, speaking of that, Panini have released a new sticker album for the Club World Cup. It never ends. It never ends.
Yeah.
But the great news is there is a collectible gold sticker of Gianni Infantino.
Just gauche bullshit.
Get it on the
around every
dartboard.
corner.
Get it on the dartboard.
I could not want it
Instantly.
more now. I want it more. I had no interest in the sticker album, but good God, I want that sticker.
I
It's
am
just sensational.
I am not someone. I hate.
Bring back Sepp Blatter.
I hate littering. Right. I hate littering. It takes every fibre of my being when I see someone littering to not stop them and say, "Can you pick that up?" please?"
excuse me.
But if everyone,
Citizens arrest.
if any,
Like David Sedaris.
yeah, like when you tried to citizen arrest Tony Blair that time. Marcus, remember?
Oh,
Was
dear.
it a cafe or something?
It was a
Something like-
restaurant, I think,
Restaurant,
wasn't
that's
it?
it.
Oh,
Waiter.
amazing, amazing.
Sorry, it was Marcus.
Yeah,
It was a bacon boy. It was a
Ask
local
Marcus, he
bacon
was
boy.
there.
I'm doing it on behalf of Gordon Brown, though.
But if you get a sticker of Gianni Infantino, just throw it in the nearest river.
Do you think so?
Yeah,
Right.
It's presumably A4, that sticker as well.
yeah, I
the
bet it
size
is,
of
yeah.
the page.
Yeah,
so
and he's got his old chap out and he's stroking it. It's one of those ones where those stickers you got back in the day where they change when you move them.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, but he's, he's
shiny
masturbating
hologram.
all over the Club World Cup trophy.
Yeah.
And that little key.
Yeah, that's why it's got a hole in the middle.
Key.
Yeah.
Someone's been doing stuff off that key.
I'm only joking, by the way. Don't litter.
Yeah.
I'm not joking about the wanking.
No.
But don't litter.
Coming up after this, the National League playoff final and a crucial Carabao update. Petey, take it away.
Got an email from Paul Smith. He's emailed us from Thailand with the subject, huge Carabao news. Sawadee crap, boys. I've been needing to send this for a while, and given it's the off-season, the tour is wrapped, and Marcus is probably gearing up for a solid 20 minutes on Phil Neville. Correct. Now feels like the right time. I've been living in Thailand for several years and always assumed the energy drink was part of one of the country's beverage giants. Thailand's drink industry is basically stitched up by two major players, but I couldn't have been more wrong. After watching the most recent White Lotus and subsequently adding the soundtrack to my Spotify, I clocked that the track Made in Thailand was by an artist who shares the same name as our beloved cup competition. Ooh. I mentioned it to my partner, who looked at me perplexed. Turns out Carabao is actually a legendary Thai rock band fronted by Young Yong Opakul, stage name aired a Carabao. Since the 1980s, they've been mixing Thai folk music with political and protest themes, becoming one of the country's most iconic acts. In the early 2000s, Aid launched his own energy drink brand, naming it after the band. Sadly, due to the aforementioned beer monopoly over here, I've never had the pleasure of trying the infamous Carabao beer that Pete's mentioned before. So if you ever manage to get your act together for an Asian tour, I will insist, nay, demand that you bring a crate with you. And while I fully understand that anything by Pitbull is the weekend anthem of choice, just for this weekend, let's ride off in the sunset with a little bit of Carabao in the background. Keep fighting the good fight. Who was it? It was Paul Smith. So thank you for that
we've
message.
got to the point where listeners are getting in touch with us to demand beer.
Yeah. So basically what he's saying is then this band, the lead singer of this band, started
Carabao
energy drink.
The drink, like having an energy drink called like Mumfords.
Yeah. That's not going to give energy.
Mumfords would be a stout.
You out,
it would be a stout.
It would. Yeah. It would be a really heavy non-alcoholic stout.
Yeah.
It'd be horrible.
Bisto. Bisto.
Surely Bisto would be annoyed about that because they're doing a drink themselves.
Yeah. I mean, if Bisto if Bisto put out a beer, everyone would drink it.
Surely, though, you'd have
for Britain.
Couldn't be worse than Brewdog, could it?
Put out a beer, everyone would drink it.
For Britain,
I suppose you'd have one, wouldn't you?
You'd have to try it.
Yeah. You see that Pete's kind of pegged it as some kind of patriotic duty to do it.
I like
You'd do it for Britain, wouldn't you? For Britain.
Yeah.
Drink your Bisto, boys.
Yeah.
Bisto for Britain.
Yeah. Would you?
I think you could have a juice drink called Pulp, surely.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah,
it probably is, to be fair.
We've got Brewdog, so we don't need to worry about
exactly.
that stuff. We've already got England and Britain's Rose. Yeah. Brewdog.
Britain's Rose.
Run by James White, MBE.
Hey.
The finest.
Why don't you come round my house?
Sir James White.
Would you like to come round my house and have a drink with me?
Yeah, and I won't fire you. But mate,
well, I'll tell you what. I bet there was a few Brewdogs sung after the National League playoff final, Jim.
I hope not though, because that's a fucking terrible beer.
Not
terrible.
in Oldham.
Yeah,
terrible beer run by a maniac.
Yeah,
okay, fair enough. Well, Oldham Athletic beat Southend United 3-2. Your local team, Petey.
It was, yeah. I almost tried to get it. They fit my politics. They notably had the BNP councillor. That's all you remember from Oldham, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, I felt very sorry for Southend fans who.
It was a heartbreaker.
It was an absolute
heartbreaker
because it was. I tried to get a ticket, and because of a lot of people couldn't get tickets because they closed one of the train stations near Wembley, and so therefore they felt they didn't have enough police to police an increase in the amount of people that could go.
It was a record attendance, wasn't it, for a National League?
It was a record attendance.
Yeah. 52,000.
That's incredible.
It should have been higher.
It shows you the size of the clubs.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Have we done them a great amount of respect as two illustrious clubs by putting them last in the running order after Marcus Sittesing arresting Tony Blair, an email about Carabao, Inspector Gadget, and Gianni Infantino masturbating on a Panini sticker?
Yeah, but all that stuff is what you said.
Yeah, that's true.
Southend have only been through Phil Brown and Sol Campbell as managers, so I mean, haven't they suffered enough?
Yeah, but they were never going to get the better of Mickey Mellon. Let's be honest.
No,
but you know that it is absolutely impossible to imagine any club going through worse than what Southend have been through. And if you were going to, you might even suggest Oldham.
True. Sorry, yeah,
it was a brilliant game.
It was an extraordinary game. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is Oldham had the better chances, and had they not have won, they would have really been sick to the stomach. But then, I forget who it was Walker who had that chance when Southend were 2-1 up.
Yeah.
And the keeper makes a great save, but
it's right at him, though, isn't it?
It was a
right
chance.
It was a lovely claw, wasn't it?
Yeah, and was it 2 or 3 minutes later, Oldham get the equaliser, and then 5 or 6 minutes later, they get the winning goal.
Southend didn't really get to grips with it after the equaliser.
No. Keenan Appiah, Forson, ex-West Ham player. I've seen him a couple of times at Southend, and he's fucking good.
You've been down Southend?
I've been
down Roots Hall?
Lovely. Of course he has.
It's walkable from my house.
Yeah, Southend have had 18 winding up petitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Oldham have had Paul Scholes as manager. Yeah. So they've both had it bad.
They really have had it bad, yeah. I mean, Oldham, what are they, the first side to go from Premier League all the way down to...
Out of the Football League. And Southend, I think, were in the Football League for 100 plus years before they dropped out.
That's right, yeah.
Due to basically just chronic mismanagement.
Oh, my goodness,
look, you've got to be pleased for Oldham to go up because they've been through it. It's a heartbreaker for Southend, not just because of what they've been through, but the manner in which it happened as well, right? Mm-hmm. So, great testament to both teams, an amazing turnout at Wembley, but could have been even higher, as Pete said. Which shows you the size of the club.
Yeah, I'm gutted for my former maths teacher, Mr. Munt. who was a
Mr.
Southend,
Munt.
was and I hope still is a Southend United fan.
Yeah.
Mr.
What's quite interesting?
What a brave soul to become a teacher.
Shout out to the Munter.
I mean, shout out to the Munt man.
Did you call him that?
The Munt Monster.
I think they called him worse, maybe.
Yeah.
Monster Munch.
What, you reckon they called him, Mr. Runt?
Yeah, that's what I reckon they called it. Yeah.
But what's
Mr. Berkshire Hunt?
Do you know what's the modern football does this? Modern football gets us into a situation now where teams of this size can compete in, with respect, a playoff final this lowly because of the way things are. It happened in the trophy final. Portsmouth played Sunderland in the trophy final, sold out Wembley in about half an hour, right?
Exactly.
90,000 in there for an EFL trophy final because these two teams have fallen on such hard times.
Well,
Sunderland back in the Premier League now, so good on them. But it shows you it really puts it through the lens of which you need to view it. Like this is what happens to these teams when the model's completely broken.
Before the game, the chair of the Oldham Athletic Supporters Foundation described the game as the Desperation Cup final.
Yeah.
And that just shows you, because normally a game like this, you think, oh my goodness, this would be a chance for a team maybe to get up into the Football League for the first time or return after a few years because they've been flirting with relegation and so on. These two, Southend United will be gutted because to get back in there, it's so difficult when you go down there. But they're two, as you say, over 100 years, Southend. For all intents and purposes, the Football League club.
Yeah, Southend were a second-tier club for a decent amount of years because I remember Portsmouth playing against them in the what had been the old Division 1 then, like mid-90s. Southend in the second
Stan
tier.
Collymore was Southend.
Yeah, he played for them,
Yeah, exactly. Crazy thing. Oh dear. Well, but well done to Oldham though.
Yeah, to the victor the spoils. You can't argue with that. You got to say to the victor the spoils. Absolutely.
Well, and to finish with that very, very famous quote and poignant one from Rio Ferdinand. I think football's a winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something we can.
What's he going to do next? I don't know, but I hope I don't hear about it.